So, Mr. Schilling, what was your first reaction to the video that showed this group of non-Indigenous teens who were mocking an elder, Nathan Phillips, who was singing and drumming?
I was looking in complete and utter disbelief. I couldn't believe what was happening, and then immediately said, I know him. I called an elder friend of mine and said, she's like, yep, that's Nathan Phillips. And within minutes, I was working to say, I know who this person is. This is the behavior that happened. And of course, as we know, everything went viral at that point.
Well, and there seemed like there was a kind of a cut and dry level of disgust for the level of disrespect that was shown in that video. But then within hours, there's this massive backlash and people saying that Phillips, quote, started it and that he confronted this group. I mean, what do you make of the sentiment that came after the initial disgust?
You know, I hate to say this, but I'm used to it. I'm used to, as a Native person, that, you know, anytime something happens that is counterintuitive to being respectful towards Native people, as a Mohawk man myself, I genuinely sit and wait for the backlash to come. And as much as I was disappointed that people were saying that, I also came to expect it because over the course of my life as a journalist, you know, it just kind of comes with the territory. And it comes with the territory of being a Native person. A lot of people don't understand that, but it does.
Some of the students, including the boy who stood kind of smugly as Phillips sang in drums, they've released statements with their versions of what happened. What are your thoughts on some of what they've had to say about the incident?
Well, hindsight is 20/20, and a lot of times we can explain away anything. It looks to be an extremely calculated attempt to explain away everything, and a lot of people on Twitter are saying so. You know, if this gentleman and young man is genuinely sorry, I really would like this to be a teachable moment. You know, but suspicions have run high. Even the Standing Rock Sioux tribe tweeted this morning, this is not an apology. You know, I put that in the article I wrote about his statement as well.
You know, some people have said that this incident shows that racism is getting worse in the United States. Do you believe that to be true, that racism is getting worse, or is social media just capturing more of it?
No, I don't think it's getting worse. I think it's always been this way, but thanks to social media, the one thing about I noticed anyways when I was looking at the videos and watching the videos is just the swarm of cell phones that were everywhere. Any little moment happens now, people are there with their cell phones. And I've even heard people say this before, is that, you know, racism hasn't changed. It's just becoming more and more available to the public. And people come out and say, wow, I can't believe this is happening to you. I was speaking with someone yesterday from England, a journalist, and they were saying, this stuff happens to you? I said, I get this almost every day. Yeah. I've had death threats. I've been called a racist too, and all these things happen. And they were just in shock. And to me, I'm like, how can people not know this? So just as much awareness as people don't know, I'm realizing that people don't realize how much racism I get as a Mohawk man and as a journalist. You
said that you know Mr. Phillips. Have you had a chance to talk to him after this incident?
Yeah, I was corresponding with him throughout the day. We were chatting back and forth online. I called him that evening, and I issued a interview, and I asked him, or printed an interview to Indian Country Today, and I said, hey, so how'd you feel? And he's like, you know, he says, it was like an out-of-body experience. I wanted to step forward because no one was doing anything, and, you know, if no one's doing it, I will. And then he was like, he said very quickly, I was like, oh boy, what did I get myself into? And, you know, we all saw what happened. So he was very skittish, and he apologized to me for not answering the phone throughout the day, because a lot of people don't realize he was a victim of a assault at a state university that got news where people got a hold of his telephone and were making threats. And during the assault, the people threw beer cans at him. We're calling him every kind of name you can imagine. So he's been pretty skittish about the whole thing, and he said, well, I hope maybe I'll do some more prayer. You know, it's been tough for him.
Well, I bet. And just in case people aren't aware of the kind of the backstory to this, he had gotten in between this group of students and another group of people who were marching or rallying for something else, and they had kind of a little bit of a hostile exchange, and he had come in. Yes. My understanding from watching it is that he had come in almost to intervene, tried to, you know, drum some peace in there. Did he say that to you?
Well, yeah, he was saying, and if you look at, I literally did 6 articles over the weekend. If you could take a look at even some of the footage that came after the initial video broke, you could see these gentlemen who identify themselves as the Black Israelites or Black Israelites who believe that they are, descended from the Israelites and Hebrews, and they were yelling pretty profane explicatives towards the kids, towards Native people, calling Native people savages. And when you see this interactions going back and forth between the kids, Mr. Phillips comes in to play the drum, and a lot of people say he was the aggressor. He walked into the face. But what people don't understand, if I was having an argument with someone as a Native man, and he walked in between me and started drumming, I would freeze in my tracks and stop immediately what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understood that, and I think people miss it. I think people miss that cultural exchange that we as Native people understand. If a Native elder came and started drumming to me when I was arguing, I would stop in my tracks immediately. And I think that's what most of Indian country is very upset about, is these kids were sitting there with smug looks on their faces and yelling and screaming, and it just got ugly quick, to say the least.
Well, I guess we'll just watch and see how this week unfolds.
I agree with you.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us and shed some light on this from your perspective. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys for shedding light on it as well. Thank you.
Our pleasure.